This is my homemade dark chocolate. There's some salt in this. I like salty dark chocolate. I'll show you how I make it. It's one of my favorite things. I actually have a small rectangle, kind of like what I broke off, pretty much every night. There's a few reasons why. 1, I love it. 2, satisfies my sweet tooth for the most part. And 3, there have been countless studies that show that eating a little dark chocolate every day can be incredibly good for your health. Now, I've talked about my weight loss a lot on this channel, over 100 pounds of fat. But one thing I don't talk a lot about is loose skin. I do have it. People ask me, I'm not gonna show you, but it is there. There is bits of loose skin. That's something that happens when you lose a dramatic amount of weight, and it especially happens the older you get. I'm in my mid-40s. The one thing I wish I would have thought about when I was younger was skin elasticity, but I didn't. It wasn't on my mind at all. As you age, starting at around 25 years old, your skin starts to lose some elasticity. Now that gets more dramatic as you get into your 30s, and especially more dramatic as you get into your 40s. Your skin will eventually lose its ability to bounce back after changes. Now, a lot of changes can be contributed to sun exposure. And for me, I live in Florida. I was an outdoorsman and did a lot of kayaking without any sunscreen. Probably wasn't smart. Smoking, which I did for many years when I was young. Poor diet, which I absolutely had, and lack of sleep. It's such a hard thing. Just in general, for everyone out there, gravity will eventually start to take its effects on your skin. So what does that have to deal with chocolate? Studies have shown that the antioxidants in chocolate neutralize free radicals that cause wrinkles and dullness in your skin. A study published by the Journal of Nutrition found that cocoa flavonols improved skin elasticity, and Cambridge University conducted human trials that found dark chocolate altered the skin structure of 50-year-olds to resemble people in their 30s. That's crazy. There's also studies that show that dark chocolate protects against UV exposure, and the copper that's in dark chocolate helps produce collagen proteins that keep skin firm and elastic. Wild. Now, along with that, there's also other studied claims, like the antioxidants in dark chocolate help lower blood pressure, increase blood circulation to the heart, and the flavonols might improve brain function. And in 2014, a lab experiment found that cocoa extract may help prevent nerve damage in Alzheimer's patients. And lastly, one study found that people who ate 1 serving of chocolate every day were 22% less likely to have a stroke. Now, I didn't start off eating a little bit of chocolate every day because of health. I did it because I liked it. It's good. I mean, how can you not love chocolate? But why homemade chocolate? It ends up costing around the same. Good quality chocolate bars are fairly expensive, and to make good quality chocolate is pretty expensive. You will save a couple of bucks here or there once you have all of the ingredients. If you've watched me for a while, you know I'm a fan of learning how to do things. You get to control the environment, all of the ingredients, and the final outcome. You can do some testing and learn what you like and don't like. And if you have the right ingredients, it only takes a few minutes, which is actually plenty of time for today's sponsor. So you all have heard me talk about my issues with coffee. I used to drink a lot of it. That leads to crashes, anxiety, jitters, all of which I've gotten. Now, you know I've tried a few different things, but I have to tell you about my favorite again, Peak's Sun Goddess Matcha. And talk about firming and healthy skin, Peak Sun Goddess Matcha contains ECGC, which has been known to firm and brighten skin, along with the slow-release caffeine and catechins, which support lipid metabolism and helps curb cravings. And L-theanine, which is a calming ingredient. That gives me sustained energy without caffeine crashes or anxiety. And it's really good, like really good. This is ceremonial grade organic matcha that has been quadruple toxin screened for pesticides, heavy metals, toxic molds, and radioactive isotopes. And with the pre-measured pouches, it makes it easy to have a consistent routine. Plus, you can dissolve it in hot or cold water and add what you like. Either way, it's really good. I personally enjoy it hot. So gang, Peak Sun Goddess Matcha is the best matcha for performance and energy. Get up to 20% off, plus a free rechargeable frother and glass beaker with your first purchase over at peaklife.com/SauceStache. Peak, thanks for sponsoring today's video and for everything you make. I love this matcha. It is so good. Now this is about 70% dark chocolate, maybe a little bit less because of the salt, but realistically about 70% dark chocolate. The percentage of dark chocolate is the cocoa solids versus everything else. 70% of this is cocoa. The other 30% in this case is sweeteners. But these are sweeteners I specifically like, which is what you get to really control. The main ingredients that you need are cocoa powder or cacao powder. I'm actually using cacao powder because it's more raw, less processed. Now this one's not entirely raw because that would just be pure cacao, but this one is slightly roasted, which means you get more of the health benefits than you would out of pure cocoa powder. The drawback is that cacao powder is more of a nutty, earthy taste versus the very chocolatey taste of cocoa powder. You can mix two of them to find out what you like the best. I'm going 100% cacao. And then you also need cocoa butter. If you were to just mix the powder and the butter together and that's it, you would have 100% dark chocolate. Now for my combination of sweeteners, I like to use a little bit of maple syrup and one of my new favorite sweeteners, allulose. I mix the sweeteners because allulose has been shown to have some very positive effects on things like blood sugar, weight control, because there's 0 calories in it. It's also been shown to be beneficial for your liver health, reduce inflammation, and better for gut health. It's less sweet than cane sugar and dissolves really nicely, so it works perfect for this recipe. Allulose is found in many things like figs, raisins, and in very small amounts in maple syrup. Now to make it is incredibly easy. We're gonna set up a double boiler on our stove. Get the water hot, not boiling, just simmering, and place a glass bowl on top. You can use a metal bowl as well. I'm gonna toss in a half cup of cocoa butter, let that melt, and add a half cup of my cacao powder. Now I'm gonna blend in a quarter cup of maple syrup and allulose, 50-50, but it's gonna be a quarter cup of sweetener. Toss that in and mix it together. Now if you're gonna keep this in the freezer and you don't care about tempering it, which is the thing that lets it crack and snap, then you could just pour this into your mold now and be done with it. But it will be softer and it won't have the same chew and bite. I always attempt to temper, and I say I get it right about 50% of the time. I'm not a chocolate maker, and I do think it takes a lot of practice. So to temper it, we're gonna raise the temperature up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and then in a large bowl, I'm gonna add ice and place a smaller bowl inside of that. Once we get the chocolate to 122, I'm gonna pull the glass bowl out, wipe off the bottom so that way no water gets inside, and start pouring the chocolate into the cold glass bowl. I'm gonna keep stirring until we bring the temperature down to 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Once it hits that, it's gonna start to thicken up, and we wanna remelt it to get it into the molds to about 90 degrees. If it gets hotter than that, you need to restart, which I did. I restarted the whole process, had to redo it again. But I'm pretty sure I got it. You can test it with a spoon, but I'm just gonna move right away. Now I have the molds that I really like. They're silicone molds. You don't need silicone molds. You could just pour it into a sheet pan and have one big thing of chocolate. I would suggest using some parchment paper on the bottom so that way you can easily remove it. But any of your toppings that you want, add them here. You can add pistachios, you can add broken up nuts. Now I like sea salt. So I'm gonna do big, chunky, flaky pieces of sea salt, pour my chocolate in, attempt to spread it out, but it cooled down too much, so it's gonna be kind of ugly. That's okay. And then we're just gonna throw this in the freezer for at least an hour, but I'm gonna do it overnight, and then we can pull out our chocolate. And it came out pretty good. One of them tempered, one of them didn't, and you could tell the one that tempered, it's pretty shiny, and the one that tempered will actually crack versus just kind of like bend and break. If it's not tempered, it will melt in your hands. As you can see, this one just kind of melts in my fingers. Still tastes just as good. As long as you keep it cold, it will stay fairly firm. But the one that is tempered shouldn't melt in your hand. It'll stay firm, and it will have a nice crack. And this is my incredibly easy to make dark chocolate. Now, when the chocolate is in that mixing stage, that first, putting it all together before you get it up to heat, you can add in flavors. You can add in vanilla. People sometimes add in like raspberry or even dried fruit that will really blend really well. Even fruit powders work really well. I've seen people do like different berry powders. Cherries come out really great in this. Orange would be really good. Citrus fruits. It all comes out really, really good in that stage. If you wanted like a milk chocolate, a little bit of oat milk really goes a long way. The more that you add, the less of percentage of dark chocolate you get. At that point, it's no longer dark chocolate. All of those flavor additions would be done before you start the tempering stage. But I will say at least 3 years of eating a little dark chocolate every day, I don't feel like I look my age. Maybe I do, I don't know. Some people say I look old, some people say I look young. But I don't have nearly as much loose skin as I did when I started. I'm not saying that's entirely the consequence of dark chocolate, but I do believe it helped. I do see pictures of other people my age that have lost about the same, sometimes even less weight than me, that have far, far more saggy skin. I do think I've done a lot of things health-wise that have improved this, but I do think that dark chocolate played a role. I do believe that. I do believe that it is one very small addition to lots of little health changes that I've made that have added up over time to create the effect. This isn't a magic bullet that will fix things instantly, but I do think that it does make a difference over time. Let me know your thoughts below. Are you gonna try making some of your own dark chocolate? I would love to hear what you think.